Welcome. I am Day. We have all experienced losses of beloved family members, friends, associates, and with that comes grief. Grief sits within. I was told that grief transforms into mourning, mourning. To mourn for the loved one is healthy and it is part of the grieving process. I am going to read Grief One Day at a Time, 365 Meditations to Help You Heal After Loss by Alan D. Wolfett. February 5th. When someone you love becomes a memory, that memory becomes a treasure. Author unknown. One of our essential needs of mourning is to remember the person who died. At first, it is often painful to remember, but over time, remembering usually becomes easier and more rewarding. When we're ready, undertaking projects of memory gathering and preserving can help us heal our grief. Putting together a special photo album or scrapbook of the person who died is one example. Making a memory box filled with not only photos but also mementos and souvenirs is another. If we're feeling inspired, we can also gather up the memories of others by asking them to email us anecdotes or thoughts about our special person. Or we can do informal interviews, jotting down the memories of others as they speak them to us. We can even piece together a biography of sorts, a single document that tries to capture as much as possible about the life of the person who died. If we want, we can publish this document in book form using simple online tools. Our memories are indeed treasures. Memory gathering and preserving activities treat our treasures with the honor and respect they deserve. They also allow us to pass on our treasures to future generations. The meditation reads, if I want to gather and preserve memories, I can do it in ways that feel right to me. I may also ask others to help me with these projects. February 6th. The meaning of life, the wasted years of life, the poor choices of life. God answers the mess of life with one word, grace. Max Lucado. When we are grieving, our lives often seem messy, chaotic, even pointless. We are confused, we are disorganized and disconnected. We are casting about for something solid to hold on to and finding nothing. Help. And then along comes grace. Grace is the experience of synchronicity and blessings in life. It is the recognition that this moment is good, even magical. In the midst of our turmoil, we receive a hug from a child, or we look up and marvel at the clouds overhead, or we see what we know is a sign from our loved one who died. Grace is ours for the embracing. It is available to us every day if we only open wide our hearts. The meditation reads, grace, I will be on the watch for you, and be thankful whenever you appear. February 7. Some things don't matter much, like the color of a house. How big is that in the overall scheme of life? But lifting a person's heart, now that matters. The whole problem with people is they know what matters, but they don't choose it. The hardest thing on earth is choosing what matters. Sue Monk Kidd. We tend to go through the routines of our days without spending much time on the things that matter most to us. But when we lose someone we love, we become acutely aware of what really matters versus what we're doing with our days. Why are we not spending more time with the people we love? Why are we working so hard? Why are we fussing about our furniture or our cars or the color of our house? Death is a great clarifier. The hardest thing on earth is choosing what matters. Now that we've been forced into a situation where we can viscerally see, feel, and understand what really matters, shouldn't we start choosing it? The meditation reads, as much as possible, I will choose to spend today and the remainder of my 2 days on what really matters. February 8. For some moments in life, there are no words. David Seltzer. We find that we cannot always talk about our grief. It is bigger than words. It is wider than words. It is much deeper and more profound than words. When language fails us, we can turn to other forms of expression. We might find comfort in hugs and holding hands. We may be helped by creating artwork, playing or listening to music, or participating in some form of physical activity. Rituals, such as lighting candles and attending spiritual services, also transcend language and give our grief a healing outlet. The meditation. When I am unable or unwilling to express my grief in conversation, I will find other ways to share it. February 9. Trust yourself. You survived a lot, and you'll survive whatever is coming. Robert 2. People we've loved with all our hearts have died, and yet here we are. We have survived. In the beginning, it didn't seem like we'd be able to survive. The reality was too terrible. The pain was too crushing. We were sure it would kill us. But we lived. We live. Maybe now we can trust in ourselves to live through whatever is coming. Maybe now we can trust that even when all hope seems lost, things will get better. The affirmation. I am learning to trust that I instinctively know what I need to survive, grieve, mourn, and heal. February 10. Mountains cannot be surmounted except by winding paths. Von Goethe. I live in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains and enjoy hiking on the many spectacular trails. But when I set off on a challenging hike, knowing that I'm going to climb 1,000 vertical feet over the next 4 or 5 miles, it is a daunting prospect. That's 1,000 stair steps. That's where the switchbacks come in. The trail doesn't take me straight up the mountain. Instead, it meanders back and forth, up and around and down a bit, then up and around some more. It spreads out the hardest parts, allowing me to recover on the relatively flattish bits in between. I can also, and do, stop to rest many times along the way. Our grief is also an uphill climb accomplished on winding paths. The switchbacks can make the journey seem endless, and we may sometimes feel lost. But it's the back and forth that makes the trek doable, and we can and should stop often to take rests along the way. The meditation. When I feel lost in my grief, I'll think of the winding path and trust that I am not lost. I'm simply meandering back and forth as I climb. I also stop to take rests as often as I need to. February 11. A year from now, you will wish you had started today. Karen Lamb. We grievers can be procrastinators. We're naturally depressed and our energy is low, and so we put things off and off and off. It's normal and even necessary to procrastinate in early grief. We're sitting in the wound of our grief. Thank you very much. We need to turn inward and focus on our grief right now. Please understand our need for space. We'll get to whatever needs doing when we get to it. The one thing we shouldn't put off for too long is expressing our grief. Procrastinated mourning turns into carried grief, which is grief we never express. And carried grief turns into all kinds of problems in our lives. That feeling that's been weighing us down, it's time to talk about it. That idea that is bothering us and keeping us awake at night, it's time to write about it in journals or maybe talk to a spiritual mentor about it. A year from now is too late. When in doubt, let it out. The affirmation reads, the time to express my grief thoughts and feelings has arrived. There are many books, groups, in person and on Zoom, where one can go and have, I'm thinking of fellowship, but I'm not sure if that's the right word, but to not be alone doing their grief process, doing their grief work, which may never end. I was told that grief is love. So, if there's anyone that would like to add some comments or um, share some books or poetry that they have read or come across regarding grief to share with me and others, it is very much appreciated. Also, remember to like, share, subscribe, and most of all, be the you that you are created to be, and that you are not alone.